Hello and welcome to Comic Culture. I'm Terrence Dollard, a professor in the Department of Mass Communication at UNC Pembroke. My guests today are Kyle Puttkammer and Marcus Williams, the creators of Hero Cats. Gentlemen, welcome to Comic Culture.
Thank you for having us.
I appreciate it.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about Hero Cats?
Well, Hero Cats is a comic book series that I created not too long ago, just a few years ago. It was the result of the first series that I did. It's a spin-off of a comic book series that I created called Galaxy Man. And so the Hero Cats have a little bit of a backstory. But essentially what it boils down to is that I was creating a nice little comic. Marcus came in, started doing some artwork, and I was like, wow, this is great art. I've got to tell a story specifically tailored around his art style. And Hero Cats basically is also something that my wife and kids have always wanted to have happen. My daughters would write short stories and about cats, and we of course have cats in the house. So I took traditional cats, put them in a fantastical world of superheroes, and Hero Cats was born.
That's interesting. And Marcus, you were a customer at the comic shop, and that's how the two of you met, or was that?
Yeah. It was I found the shop because I was frustrated. I couldn't find Sonic comics. I think Borders was still open at that point, and my son and I say my son, it was really for me. And I couldn't find Sonic comics, so I found Kyle's shop, and he had an Art Monday where a lot of artists would come in and just draw just free form stuff, nothing nothing with pressure. But yeah, I came in, brought my sketchbook and stuff, and just started drawing.
By the way, that's not too unusual of an experience. Just today I had a mother bring her daughter in to get something as a gift and so forth, and she of course ended up walking out buying something for herself. So
Well, it is interesting. One of the things about Hero Cats is that it's an all ages book, and what we've seen is a lot of people have the perception that comics are simply superheroes, the Marvel, the DCs, but they sometimes are a little surprised to see that maybe their favorite TV show like The Walking Dead was based on a comic or something like that, and that there are comics for readers of all interests and all, I guess interest is the best word to put it. So when you were coming up with the idea for Hero Cats, you said this was something that you thought that your family would enjoy. And how many folks have you heard from that aren't in that target demographic that are reading the book and enjoying it? Because I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Thank you. Thank you. Along those lines, essentially early on, I've been retailing comics for about 24 years now, and I don't know, maybe 15 years ago, there was a real lack of specifically kids comics. And so my wife very much so encouraged me to carry more kids comics. And of course, there weren't that many of them. And so I started to create Galaxy Man, and had great success with it because there was very little competition for an all ages comic. There wasn't much out there. And things have changed. There are a lot more all ages comics. Hero Cats is unique in that we're not talking down to the kids. I'm writing for myself and for my family, but I'm also keeping it optimistic. Yeah, there was a time period you might remember in comics where essentially comic creators are like, we're supposed to be taken seriously, and this is serious literature, and let's all get serious. And we got a little bit too serious. We took ourselves too seriously, and we forgot about the kids. And so Galaxy Man and Hero Cats kind of was that answer that the marketplace was indicating to me there wasn't enough of, which is something that was lighthearted and fun and yet insightful. And so it's definitely something that my wife and kids have encouraged me to keep it. Basically, a prime example. I'll just go ahead and this is art. So let's show you. This right here is the cover, which my wife wanted to see. This is cats being cats on rooftops and so forth, and it says what I needed it to say. Mm-hmm. Marcus and I, we really wanted to say this. Hey, look at all this explosions and car chases and all that testosterone and epic nature of it. So traditionally comic artists want all that action and so forth. But the typical reader out there that may or may not have picked up a comic book before might kind of get lost in that. And so this cover has done quite well. The epic cover, for people that read comics on a regular basis and are familiar with the language of sequential storytelling, that speaks to them. So we're always trying to find the way to speak to both the seasoned comic reader and the first-time comic reader.
And what I found interesting was that the story itself, although it's an all-ages story, it really is all ages. It doesn't, as you say, speak down to an audience. And as I don't know who said it, but someone said that if you write for children, you're writing for a very small audience, and it's really probably not going to be a good story. But if you write for everyone, you're probably going to come up with a much better story. And the one thing I found about the art, Marcus, is that it is very clean lines, beautifully rendered backgrounds, and these cats all seem to have different personalities, and you're able to capture. I have cats as well, and as anyone's seen my hairy shirts can attest to. But you're able to capture different personalities of the different characters in the different cat faces. And I was just wondering if you had any sort of idea in mind when you were coming up with them, of real animals, or kind of basing it on people or something along those lines.
I suppose in terms of just really capturing emotion and personalities, I drew superheroes like every other aspiring comic artist, and people and humans and some aliens maybe, but I've never thought of drawing emotional cats and or conversations or action scenes with cats. So it was I guess a different kind of challenge, if just to be accurate as an artist, where I looked up cats on Google and searched all the imagery and so forth, but you don't find nearly as much expression. And I'm still looking for a book. If there's a photographer out there that has dynamic cat, anatomy and poses, because I just couldn't find that. But they are expressive. Cats do have expression. You'll find, pictures with cats that have, even though they don't have eyebrows like we do, they'll have like a lower brow and things of that nature. And so you get some expression, but not to the level of what the art grew to where it is now. And I'm still developing it. I say I'm still growing as an artist, but it's fun. It's a good challenge for me as an artist. I never thought I'd be drawing cats. Never thought I'd be drawing.
And regarding the acting of the characters, these 2 pages, I think, are some of the better examples of how they're interacting and so forth. I really enjoyed how this scene, which I had written, kind of came to life. But you also touched on the backgrounds, the settings. And that's something that Marcus can tell you is very important to me, the establishing shots, because the backgrounds are characters just as, Superman isn't Superman unless he's in Metropolis. Batman is just a guy in a bat suit unless he's in Gotham City, that kind of thing. And so these hero cats very specifically are in Stellar City, and they all have their specific settings that they are comfortable in. And so if they're, sometimes the stories are that they're not comfortable in the settings that they're in. And so the backgrounds, he's proficient at the backgrounds also, which has been a joy. So.
Well, it's also, you're able to capture the body language to tell a story without a word, so it's not even necessarily facial expression. It could just be the way that the cats are, and being around cats, I say you've captured that pretty well. But I wanted to just touch base on the process that the two of you work together. Is this something, Kyle, where you just will write the script up and give it to Marcus, or are the two of you sort of brainstorming the ideas and then you sit down and put it together on paper?
Well, it all started out with me plotting the Galaxy Man series and working with a writer and working with an artist. I actually inked the Galaxy Man series and did a lot of the backgrounds and the layouts. And so I was familiar enough with the entire process that when Marcus came along, I essentially had to work up some scripts, which was a relatively new process for me. The first issue actually, one of the big challenges was I had all these ideas, and putting them in just one 22-page story is a challenge because, as any writer will tell you, you get caught up in the story and you want to share so much. Once the 22-page story was completed, because I am also an artist, when I shared it with Marcus, he could see many of the shots that I'd worked out in the script. And interestingly enough, the first issue, what I challenged myself to do was to capture in one page these different characters. As you may have noticed, the Midnight Story, the Bell, Rocco, Ace, all of these one-page stories actually became expanded as it looked like, yes, this is something that we could do. We never really started out this process saying, we're gonna write 12 issues and it'll be easy and so forth. It was one of those things where, is this feasible? Right. Does this even make sense? And will people get it? And so we went to Heroes Con, and the people got it. I self-published the first issue before Action Lab, and the book sold so well that we came back from the convention and I just told Marcus, 3 issues are taken care of. We're doing this, that's all we're doing. And at the point that those 3 issues were completed, pencil-wise, was when we actually signed with Action Lab and realized that, all right, now we've got a schedule to keep. So, but yeah, step by step, it was a testing ground where we would test, okay, is this going to work? Is that going to work? And as these tests all proved well, we continued to invest more time and effort and so forth. So,
and it does start with a script. Kyle writes the scripts per issue, so it comes out in story format, written format. Before we actually then, the next step from there is sitting down and doing layouts. And yes, we have all this stuff in front of, in our hands because that's what we're here today to do. So
yeah, actually Mondays are our creative day, where we work on the series. Right. And the great thing is that Marcus can knock out sometimes as much as 3 pages in a day. Wow. So and then from there, he gets the, let's see here, this is actually a somewhat finished page of the 7th issue. Right. And traditionally, I would very much so oversee each step of the process, but we've gotten to that point now that we know each other enough and we trust each other's artistic vision now that I can just hand off the layouts to him, and things are becoming a little bit more automated, especially with our inker and colorist.
Yeah, I was gonna say after the pencils, it goes to the inker, who's Ryan Sellers, and he basically cleans up all of my line art digitally in the computer, and then it goes to our colorist, Omaka Schultz, and he basically puts the cherry on top, and then we go through a post-production process to make sure all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed. I was going to say the other way at first. But then it's just, we tweak everything, and then once it's all beautiful, we send it to the printer. Well, not to the printer, we send it to the publisher, that sends it to the printer. So, and then
I'm so glad that I don't have to send it to the printer anymore. Self-publishing. I've self-published 5 issues, and it's quite a process getting it into Diamond's catalog, and just the whole, making sure that we're on schedule. Galaxy Man did come out nationally for 4 issues, and I was pleased with the overall experience there. But it is good to have a publisher that's, for example, the Halloween issue. We were very pleased with the Halloween issue. It ended up getting 34,000 units out there, which is quite a nice performance. So people are getting to know the series much more. One of my favorite pages in here is, of course, the Rockzilla page. Now, this is not colorized by Omaka. This is Matt Herms, and Matt has done the 4th issue also. Omaka needed to really get familiar with colorizing, and because he literally walked in the door of the store the day that we were needing a colorist and said, "You guys got anything artistically around here that I could do?" And it worked out perfect. So
is everyone in the Atlanta area?
Yes. Yep.
All local.
Well, that's great.
I do like to be able to, sit down with the creative folks and make sure that we can clean things up on the spot, or that they can collaborate together on any bits. Because there's one process which Marcus didn't mention is post-production. Essentially, as he's doing the panels and the pages, it gets to a point sometimes where it's like, you know what, we'll fix it in post. And inevitably, the inker, the colorist, will get to that point and say, what was happening here? And Marcus will have to explain, we're gonna insert cloned space bugs there later. Just,
Yeah.
It's very much so like a movie making process, I would imagine.
Mm-hmm.
The nice thing about comics is for somebody that grew up in Wisconsin as a 10-year-old boy that saw Star Wars and realized that I could never make a movie like that without millions of dollars and all the rest of that stuff. To be able to sit down with paper, pencil, and just capture some of that magic. With comics, it's easy to get your vision out there with a very limited budget. I started my comic book stores with literally $300 in cash and $300 in comics, and it's supported my family for the past 24 years. Hero Cats and Galaxy Man, I started out with very, very little budget, and it reinvested and reinvested. And Hero Cats, merchandising. It's working out, and so I'm having a lot of fun with it. And
well, I'm imagining that the advances in technology, I mean, especially computer art, have made it easier for someone to be in self-publishing. Whereas back in the day, you'd have to, get your art all on board. And Marcus, you were saying that your inker is using a digital program to ink the art and finish it, and then send it out to the colorist, who I'm assuming is also using a computer to colorize.
Yes.
Whereas if you compare it to, heck, even just 20 years ago, when they were having to photostat the artwork, do a 4-page breakdown of what the colors were, and then send that out to the printer and get a copy sent out and everything else. I'm imagining that and hopefully our camera hasn't froze up, hopefully it streamlined the process a little bit. As a penciler, are you working on the traditional 11 by 17 board, or are you working on something smaller?
Absolutely. I think we determined that I'm the only one that actually still has to do something on physical media. Of the team, everyone else gets to work on the computer. I get to work on the computer a little bit at the end. But yes, I still do the 11 by 17 art boards, traditional paper, paper and pencil. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the fanciest thing I get to use. I just, I use regular pencils, mechanical pencils, things like that. So nothing too crazy there. But yeah, the standard, I guess the comic standard paper boards and so forth. We'll
point out we are shooting today's episode. Our guests are in Atlanta in an actual comic shop, so if you hear the sound of commerce going on behind us, that explains that. But yes. Getting back to your artistic process, you said you do the thumbnail and then you go to the larger size. Are you the type of artist who does the 2/3 size and then blows it up from the layouts, or do you just start right on the board and go from there?
Yeah, I do. It's just too frustrating to. Well, I don't say frustrating. It's a wiser process to actually go ahead and do the thumbnails first, because if anything changes, you can easily erase the thumbnail, and as long as it's clean enough to see. He showed it quickly. I'll see if I can show you how small this is on the paper. And they're very rough sketches in terms of storytelling, but they have all the panels. Everything is in I guess scale to that size, and then we go to the board and I lightly sketch it in. If I'm here at the shop, I'll lightly sketch it in. Kyle will look over my shoulder and he'll say yes, no, tweak this, and then I'll tweak it. But it's so light on the boards, but it just saves a lot of time and having to go back and this guy was supposed to be 5 foot, not 8 foot, so let's switch them up. So it does help to do the thumbnails first.
And the customers have been taken care of.
Well, we explained that we were coming to our audience from a comic shop, and hopefully they'll understand that. It's, I think, a great opportunity for us in North Carolina to speak to creators in other parts of the world, and you know, it's interesting to see how the real world operates sometimes.
Just think of me as Kevin Smith without all the swearing.
Darn it, it's the favorite part. But just to finish up, Marcus, when you do the thumbnail, do you read through the whole script first, or are you kind of just going page by page?
Well, we do a read through. Me and Kyle, Kyle read through the whole script once he finished everything, and we actually sat down and did a read through together. And you know, which case I'm not drawing at that point. I am just, you know, listening and visualizing previs in my brain. And the good thing is, you know, like you said, because we have, you know, a rapport at this point, I can pretty much see and or hear, you know, the excitement in his voice says, this is going to be epic right here. And, you know, my brain actually says, oh, okay, I know what that looks like, you know, on paper. And so, but then after that, he gives me a copy of the script, and I'll, you know, sit down with the thumbnails, and we have a layout day, which is where we go through the script again, you know, page by page, and I'll just take this, you know, the little small sheet of paper, and we'll go through and just, you know, number the pages and just go page by page.
I think early on, when I basically woke up one morning and said, what if a bunch of cats were doing battle with reanimated dinosaur bones? What would that look like? And Marcus ends up, and I described the image exactly to him. Right. And as you can see there, yeah, Marcus ended up illustrating that. Yeah. And it was one of the first images that we actually sold the original artwork for. And it was an indicator that this kind of fun and shenanigans would be perfectly legitimate and workable.
Well, people understood it as soon as they saw that, because like I said, I've never drawn that, never had any cat battles in, you know, in my sketchbook. So I mean, as soon as we got it out on paper, it's like, oh, all right, well that's awesome. So more of that, and so, you know, space invaders and cats and robotic bees and all that good stuff started just pouring out. So,
and there's actually some energy that Marcus has started to capture and zone in on, that with the characters, there's just this, the layout of the page, the sizing of the characters in comparison to the environments and so forth. There's an energy that he's started to understand that needs to come to each page. You know, it's great because early on I was like, this is what I'd like to see. And I was very, very pleased with it. And even his colors, he colorized the first issue. And I thought, well, great, Marcus is a great colorist and so forth, and this is all looking fantastic. But I mean, we're working on the fourth issue is done. We're going to send that out to the publisher hopefully before the end of the day. Mm. And it's just amazing, the fourth issue, compared to what that you've read. Right. You know, it's each issue just gets better and better. So, and I think that's natural with any artistic endeavor, is the more you get familiar with the characters, the more dynamic everything becomes.
I was thinking while you were saying that, it seems to me like you're telling a story, like you said. This is the type of movie you can make with paper rather than with film. And I would imagine that from an artistic point of view, to kind of get the rhythm down, the pacing, the language, the body language of your characters, it's going to take more than just that one issue. And the more you're doing it, the more the characters come to life. I'm sure the first draft of Catcher in the Rye wasn't, you know, Holden Caulfield wasn't quite polished yet.
Right.
He just compared us to Catcher in the Rye.
Well, it's the only book I've ever read, so.
All right.
Without pictures.
Very good.
Yeah. So that's something that you've noticed as the characters come to life on their own?
Well, what's also there is that, for example, by the time I was doing the fourth issue, I just didn't have a connection with Belle as a character. Early on, she is shown, she's the mind reader. I should go through the characters.
Well, we have about 3 minutes left in our show.
Okay. There's Ace, who's the natural leader. There's Midnight, who doesn't like criminals. He's basically our Batman-esque character. There is Rocket, who is kind of that zany character that thinks that he's from outer space and so forth. Belle reads minds. And Rocco never loses in a fight. And then Ace, as I mentioned, is the leader. But by the fourth issue, I really didn't know the character. She was one thing to me, and until I actually made her raised with jewel thieves and born into that life. So she was born and raised a criminal. Now she became a more interesting character to me. So as each issue has come out, I find out more and more about these characters. Now that I know them so well, I'm doing a 3-part story which is going to explore the characters in a different light. So it's a fun process. Writing this, and I become more familiar, just as Marcus has become more familiar with the art. Right. I become more familiar with the characters, and I can tell more intricate stories. So,
and in the few minutes that we have left, I guess at this point we have probably about a minute and a half left in the show. You've been a retailer in the Atlanta area for about 24 years, and it seems to me that you've given back to the community that you're in, and I believe you also do seminars on making comics to students from ages 9 and up.
Yeah, just to give you a little bit of a rundown of my resume, I guess, I don't know. Galactic Quest is my comic book stores, and people can get in touch with me through kyle@galacticquest.com. But herocatscomic.com or Facebook is another way to find out more. The libraries that I've been teaching at, they essentially reached out to me because of art classes that I did in the store. And so now we've taught at about over 200 libraries now. And they're 1-hour classes of how to draw faster and better for teenagers and such. I speak fluent teenagese, I guess. And we also run card game events for the different Magic the Gathering and so forth. And business continues to call.
Well, I'm being told that we've got to wrap up. Kyle, Marcus, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for watching Comic Culture. We hope to see you again next time for another episode.